Good evening. Since the dawn of time, wine has been synonymous with life. Christ transformed it from water and offered it up as his blood. It has inspired poetry, sparked diplomacy and romance, but even more spectacular, it has saved lives. Fermentation is a tangible miracle, lowering cancer rates, heart disease, and blood pressure. It may even be responsible for healthier skin, hair, and brains. You will walk away from the speech with a new understanding of the ancient formula, and my hope is that you will be healthier, happier, and classier too. What else could tie the rich to the poor, reinvigorate, or subdue, lift you up to new heights, or drown your sorrows? Spanish conquistadors landed on the shores of what would be Florida in the 1600s. There are many names to the treasure they sussed out. Alchemists worked themselves ragged for what contemporaries called amaranth. All the pre-science blends of raw gold and plants proved useless to aging arthritic hands. The fountain of youth, even as the Spaniards planted the first vineyards in the New World and relaxed with those first batches, they still pondered where the secret to eternal life could lay. These are the same people that called it sangria, the root word being sangre, blood. Merchants made long treks across the Silk Road under the jarring sun, and ported wines could easily spoil and evaporate. This was the start of brandy and cognac. Wine was cooked down to a base that you could reinvigorate with water. Wine traveled far, and so did the seeds and vineyards across the world. In the 1920s, when Prohibition was in full force, the only legal alcoholic beverage was sacramental wine, which was a prominent part of churches. Coincidentally, numbers of Jewish and Catholic converts jumped up to record highs, and the sweet stuff flowed piously. This was the only legal way to tie one on back then. People sacrificed their own spirituality to get a weekly drink, selling their souls. It's not all good news, though. Recently, 28 popular wineries were caught in a class action lawsuit. Mostly low-cost ones such as Sutter Home and Charles Shaw varieties were accused of dangerous levels of arsenic. Even a couple high-end winemakers tested positive for the poison. Some may remember the controversy in the rice market a few years back. No related deaths were reported, and no hospital reports either. Arsenic is a naturally occurring toxin found in soil. Its main use is in rat poison and cigarettes. Sometimes it creeps in the crops, vegetables, and could end up on the dining room table, but low levels are no cause for alarm. It's these same cheap products that are too often blamed for hangovers. The rumor got out that the culprit was inorganic sulfates. Inorganics sales climbed in recent years in hopes of avoiding this nasty chemical headache. In reality, sulfates are a common insecticide and preservative. It's used in the crops, and then about a spoonful is added per bottle before it's sealed. Sulfites are tasteless and safe. Wine Spectator reports that the nasty hangover is just as likely with a $3 bottle to a $100 bottle. Basically, as long as you stay hydrated, you'll be fine. In fact, the heartier the wine, the more likely a headache the next morning. Even today, there's controversy on the subject of alcohol's effects on the body. Specifically, neurologically, there is no debate on excessive alcohol use. Those negative effects have been seen time and again. But anything in excess is harmful, water and oxygen included. White wine is by tradition prepared by removing the skins and meat of the grapes, and utilizing with just the juice. Anything else would leave an unflattering boldness. Unfortunately, it's the skins and the stems that hold all the tannins and resveratrol. Red wine, on the other hand, contains those hearty ingredients along with the added health benefits. Typically, the dark color, the healthier the wine is. There is a benefit to lower blood pressure with any glass, but the real fountain of youth is in those dark tannins. Resveratrol, the miracle natural intoxicant that has been found to reduce lipoprotein and reduce blood clots. Research has shown that the long-term benefits of wine over any alcohol option are better. A lowered risk of heart disease, lowered blood pressure, but even more neuroprotection, healthier brain function. People with type 2 diabetes have higher risk for coronary heart disease. Red wine lowers the risk of both. Dr. R. Paul Robertson writes, meals with wine or tannic acid, a component of wine, are associated with lower glucose levels after eating compared with meals with ethanol. Eric L. Mortensen writes for the JAMA Network, proposes that wine and beer present social benefits as well. He says wine drinking was significantly associated with higher IQ, higher parental educational level, and higher socioeconomic status. This was compared with beer drinkers in Denmark, which had less than optimal results. In conclusion, we have seen the dangers associated with excessive consumption. But, remaining moderate, I truly believe that wine is the fountain of youth, with our ancestors sought after. Older and as sacred as the Bible, wine is nostalgia in a glass, taste being so closely tied to scent, scent so synonymous with memory. It is timeless, and justly, it only grows better with age. So drink up. Have a drink for the conquistadors, for the convenient spiritualists, for the poor and the rich. But most importantly, have a drink for yourself. And cheers to your health. Yay.
Salud. Okay, I'll do the question and answer. I guess I'll just stay here. That's fine. Okay, so great job. And now I'm going to be running the question and answer section of the speech. And everyone here has their critique form and has been jotting down notes either on the form or in their mind on the speech as he went along. So I'll just start with the first question, which anyone can feel free to answer. What was the most important thing you all learned about the topic?
The health benefits was really interesting to hear about all the different ways you can improve your health.
Good, good.
Like the demographic comparisons, I think it was Denmark or Sweden that the JAMA stats you're bringing up too. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yes, very good. Very good. Any other interesting things that came
I
up?
thought it was very interesting that about talking about hangovers. That a $3 bottle versus a $100 bottle, you'll still get a similar hangover if you're not hydrated enough, which I had no idea.
Yeah,
I'm excited to learn that.
That's good to know. Okay, so what did you think that Forrest did most effectively?
I really like that even when you made a little blip in your speech or an error, you just kept blazing through it, which is exactly what you should do.
Yeah, what you didn't make a big deal out of it or put yourself down. You just kind of kept on going, which was good.
I especially liked the intro and the conclusion, how they connected really well to each other, and so we knew what you were going to talk about, and then you concluded and kind of summarized it and brought it back around. I thought it was a really effective job of doing that.
I thought just the content was really good because I feel like a lot of people drink wine and it's everywhere, but I learned stuff that I didn't know about. So, but you did a good job of going in depth enough, but not so much that it was boring in any way.
I think it was turned into kind of a storytelling thing too, just with the history that you're giving, and you can tell that is the topic that you're interested in yourself. But you did a good job.
Yeah, and I felt like I know I'm supposed to be running this, but I put in comments too because I'm part of them. That you use credible sources, so I know as a researcher that JAMA is one of the most prestigious medical journals, and obviously that is a legitimate source, that you're not just pulling information from Wikipedia. So I think that was a huge draw as well, the credibility of the sources. Any other comments generally about any of the speech at all?
I think generally I actually liked it a lot, and you had a lot of different thematic hooks too. You did some history, some science, from everything, and I felt with more practice that could be something I see as a TED talk on the benefits of drinking, because it's just different layers of interesting.
Yeah, it's not just one layer, like she said.
I think also the delivery that you had was very conversational. I never felt like I was in a formal setting in the sense that I felt like you were talking to us, and it was very easy to follow what you were talking about, and the way you delivered it was very professional.
You're a lot better than a lot of my colleagues out there. They got formal talks and conventions. Some people are just so dry, and you were not dry.
Yeah, you can tell you're a writer and not just a scientist like us. Okay, so I'm gonna ask a couple more questions. What would you suggest that the speaker work on before the next speech?
I say a little more eye contact would be good with the audience. I mean,
I think it's hard to memorize stuff, but yeah, I think if you were able to just like look at us more, like I'm sure you knew what was on your cards, but like,
Of course.
yeah, you sort of, it's like a way to, I don't know. I get nervous, and that's something I struggle with too. So just trying to have more eye contact or like, kind of like try to interact with your audience more somehow.
Just a small thing. At the beginning, you have a bit of play on with like language and diction, and I just think a few more like runs with the beginning would like really nail the emphasis there, because you nailed it at the end. At the beginning, I'm guessing it was just a bit of nervousness, but that would kind of just cinch what you had there, because the idea behind the delivery was interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Interesting points. But I think that this may seem out of what your speech was about, but I think you presented yourself well. You're dressed very nicely, and you had good posture throughout the whole speech. And with the few minor, maybe like what the other people were saying with the eye contact and memorization, and just maybe practicing it a couple more times, it would have, been perfect. Okay, so I think there's two questions that I'm supposed to ask, which is what did the speaker do well? I think we kind of covered that. I just would want anybody to be able to answer that again if they have any final thoughts about it.
What I thought of is that I didn't notice you using any filler words really, like or so. I always do that, and it's like you notice it in a lot of people, so I think that was a really good strength you had.
It's a strength, definitely.
Yeah.
Any other final comments on improvements, or just general comments?
Thought it was good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Just
Better
gaining
than
the
me.
comfort level can make it like go from a really good speech to like spot on perfect. So
Okay.
Yay.
Great job.
Yay.